Hey, Greg, can you start with the almost the second to last comment from Measy Official?
Oh, put that on the screen?
Yeah. All right, Measy, I think it's
well, that's the all right, but we didn't assume that there were going to be two rulings. So we may have a second person in the running.
We may. Well, congratulations, Measy, at least for the DV 2020 people.
All right. Well, all right. So it's nice to have this special YouTube for to talk about some good news, mostly good news. There's a couple of people that are not going to be happy with this, but generally speaking, we've got some pretty good news. You guys no doubt I've gotten already a lot of information on Twitter and other places. I know that Britt Simon did a very helpful update to analyze, giving his thoughts on it, and I am pretty much in agreement with what I heard from him. But basically, we have part one of what will presumably be two rulings, and part one is just dealing with the DV 2020 aspect of litigation, and the judge. I thought it was a pretty resounding win for the plaintiffs. There's some pretty strong language regarding visa bans again, and Judge Mehta is whether the Biden administration finally gets the message after this ruling, I doubt it, but this is going to be very helpful language for us in some of our other cases, and certainly makes it clear to the administration here that this is a loser for them. We also were successful on our unreasonable delay arguments. We were successful on the prioritization arguments. We were pretty much across the board. The only thing there's a couple of the only downsides are, one, we did not get an increase in the numbers, which we were hoping for, and we thought that we made a pretty good case for that. And honestly, I was scratching my head a little bit trying to understand the judge's logic in why he stuck to that number. He didn't really, it was basically one paragraph vaguely saying we didn't convince him, as far as I guess, on that they had bad faith or whatever the issue was.
Well, that was interesting.
That was what our argument was. I thought our argument was just his methodology was we were disagreeing with.
We both, and the methodology he didn't even address. The second part about the bad faith, said, well, you didn't give me any real evidence of that, other than the fact that they verified that it was all bad faith. I mean,
and also beginning October 1st, they basically reverted back to the
exactly. There is the bad faith, but I guess you wanted bad faith proactively. Greg, the other thing that we asked for that people may not understand, we asked actually for a class certification for individuals who had been given a visa, but whose visa had expired before, within 6 months. And interesting, I think he did address that, even though you don't see that in the very first part of his opinion. He says that, look, the Department of State has issued an order that anybody can enter on their D visa regardless of the expiration. I mean, that's what the judge said. So the judge is interpreting the Department of State's order, which I always interpreted as being, you need to get here within 6 months of that visa expiration, to mean anybody who had a DV 2020 visa can get on an airplane today. I didn't interpret the Department of State's memo about that way, but clearly
by the way,
Mehta did.
Everybody, Chuck is not in a holding cell. He is he's on vacation somewhere in a room with kind of crappy audio and internet.
Yeah, well, this is BYU, I'll tell you. But what was interesting about this ruling is, I think we won. So if you've got a DV 2020 visa that was issued before March 20th and you couldn't enter, I think you get on an airplane with a copy of that order. Say the judge said I could come. So
I think we're going to have to. So I think what we ought to, when we have the conversation with the government lawyers, which will be coming up very soon, we should gauge their opinion on that, and see whether we're going to have to go back to the judge on that issue or we're okay on that. So my advice for people in that situation would be hold tight for a couple of days, see if we can get some clarification on how the State Department is going to view this issue, and hopefully they're going to be reasonable, and if not, then we're going to probably have to go back to the judge and get the judge to clarify. Is that your reading on it, guys?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, and we should have that meeting, I think, by Friday, based on our preliminary conversations.
Yeah, and I know Curtis said he sent an email out. I didn't.
He did. He did.
I don't think I was copied on it. So, but I don't know if the plaintiffs' lawyers are having their own meeting first, or we're going to have just one big meeting with the government lawyers without having that preliminary meeting. But we will obviously want to do some coordinating. There was a part of this ruling that largely only affected one case, Curtis's Kennedy case. And that had to deal, that was basically the judge saying that, named plaintiffs were not going to be prioritized in terms of it's going to be a random selection. Now, first of all, it's not I don't know where the judge kind of got on, I guess
it's from the statute, Greg.
Right, but it
references Department of State regulations, which puts them in rank order. So it should have said per government regulations in rank order by what your case or not.
I guess what I'm wondering is with the government, it's like, have they been violating the statute all these years on that particular issue? Because they do process in a particular order, but I guess they select randomly, and that's
that's a good question, because if you actually go to the affidavits or declarations from them, they don't do it. They do it in rank order if documents are qualified. That's how they supposedly process. And yet we know that they've skipped some folks. Now, I think we have to be clear here, Greg, that this is the Gomez/Aker ruling. It's not the Goh ruling.
Right.
So we only have 12 clients left that did not get a visa. Every one of our other 149 has already got their visas.
Right.
And the 12 people that didn't get them did have interviews, but could not get to the consulate. Now, a lot of folks ask, how are they going to do this? And the simple answer is we have actually asked that question to the government a year ago. How are you going to do this? And they refused to answer us. So rather than us speculating, let's wait and see what we can work out with the government.
I think they were hoping they were never going to have to answer that question.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right.
All right, so taking a step back here on it, so we don't have very many Aker plaintiffs. It was interesting, sort of last night when we were having our discussions, we were saying, well, how is this going to impact our named plaintiffs and Go and all that? And so it was interesting when I was listening today to Bert Simon's video it was about an hour, to just hear his take on it, which was sort of like one we haven't discussed before, but in relation to this, but this probably has to do with the fact that all the other cases, most of their named plaintiffs were already dealt with, and it was this one late filed case that is largely affected with that particular ruling, and that may have had something to do with it, even though the judge didn't say anything. I do think that I'm not as concerned about how it's going to impact Go as I might have been last night, the more I've been thinking about it. And Chuck, you don't seem to think it's much of an issue either.
I don't. First of all, keep in mind, we are not a preliminary injunction. We are a final order case. And we have plaintiffs that specifically requested specific relief as to them. Now, the judge can combine the cases. He hasn't done that yet. And we don't know exactly what he's going to do. But we also, a lot of our plaintiffs have already been scheduled or even been given visas. So as our numbers go down, I think we're going to see a lot of our plaintiffs getting their visas by the 30th. But I also think the judge set us up well to reserve all of the visas that are an issue. Because when he talked about, well, in this case, in Gomez, he didn't really give me proof that they had committed bad faith previously. But we certainly did that in the Goh case. And I think that actually bodes well for reserving the numbers. And keep in mind, in the Goh case, it was never about, is everybody going to get the visa? We hope so. But when they notify 79,000 people plus derivatives for 130,000, whatever that number is, and there's only 55,000 people, there's people who don't get their visas. So we want our plaintiffs to get it. We will keep fighting for that, and we'll see what we get from the judge hopefully shortly.
Yeah. By the way, so there was a couple other things regarding this number. First of all, there's a typo, and we'll see how the judge deals with that on there, where he inverted 9 and 0 instead of 9095. He said 9905. Looks like a bank error in your favor. We'll see. We'll see if that. I wouldn't count on that extra 900, but maybe the judge will feel generous and he'll stick to that. The other thing is that I thought that was interesting in Britt Simon's video today was he thinks that we didn't, I guess we were asking for 20,000. He doesn't think that many were necessary. He thinks the number is somewhere between 9,000 and 20,000, and that we're not probably way off. So that probably a pretty decent chunk of the people that are still interested in pursuing DV 2020 will get their shot.
I think a lot of the people who were documentarily qualified, those who actually had interviews scheduled that were canceled, those who were interviewed actually just didn't get the visa, I think a lot of those folks will be near the top of that list. But we will see. And of course, this is the Gomez case, right? So we're not the primary lawyers in this case. The primary lawyers, they are handling the primary part of that negotiation. Because again, we only have 12 folks left, and they're who we'll be fighting for.
We already mostly won on that. Although our remaining plaintiffs are going to be hopefully in good shape.
And again, we won for the individuals who had visa stamps that expired. We think we won that. The judge thinks we won that. He thinks State Farm's going to let everybody in. So that's a good.
All right. So as far as Goh, I think the main takeaway here is that the legal analysis that the judge gives in this case bodes very, very well for Goh and potentially for some of our other cases as well. So, Kinsley versus Blinken, I think the odds of our winning on that are much improved. Well, they were very good from the beginning.
They were very good, yeah.
On there, but now I would be really shocked if we don't win. And I guess that we'll see if anybody from the government wants to reach out to us or just and deal with this ahead of this inevitable loss. But we will see on there. I guess they have a lot of things on their plate right now that aren't related to this. But and I also Goh obviously has helped. I think our EB adjustment case is significantly helped since we now have a fresh precedent for the ability of a court to reserve visas on there. There have been some naysayers regarding that on Twitter that we've had.
Well, I will say you one naysayer
from friendly corners on there. So we will see on there, but that is we are definitely in the Chakrabarty case. We are now citing to Gomez. On there, and some of our other cases as well. I think we're basically going to add this argument on all of our cases that deal with similar issues.
Well, I will also note, Greg, that one of the key precedents that Judge Mader on in finding that the government's actions were illegal was our Tate case on the 01s that we won early in the year. So it's really good to be part of setting the precedent on this. But I'm actually very happy I think this will have a very positive effect on the Chakrabarty case. And just for those Chakrabarty plaintiffs who may be listening right now, we are in the process of conferring with the government before filing the preliminary injunction, and we're waiting to hear back. So that's coming shortly. That's a necessary part of the pre-filing of the PI.
Oh, so a procedural question on that, Chuck. You know, we've submitted the we're the document for their to get their feedback on that. But I guess when we drop in this paragraph at on the new case on there, we're going to send it again, or we just assume that when they oppose, which they will.
Well, when we talk to them, we'll just tell them we're doing it. By the way, there's a brand new President's of Sports Hours case. I'm sure you're.
Yeah, because the one I sent her was just a draft, so we can definitely amend it before we file it and let her know that we're adding that argument.
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was going to delay things with having to send it to her again. Okay, good.
Not at all.
Right. So, do you want to start getting to some questions?
Yeah, let's do a few. Let's take Measy. We gave Measy plenty of credit there, so.
All right, so okay, what do you think for going?
I think this is probably the fundamental question, right? Is whether or not plaintiffs are going to get priority. And I think there's a lot of concern about given the fact that Gomez, that he said, I'm not going to prioritize plaintiffs, what happens with others? I mean, I have my personal thoughts of why the decision went that way, but what do you all think about Go?
I agree with your personal thoughts, Jeff, on why the decision went that way, especially given the ruling earlier in the week on a prior filing. So I remain hopeful. I think our plaintiffs have legitimate reason to be considered as part of the reservation of all the numbers. I mean, that's the deal. It's not a question of getting visa by September 30th. That was never going to happen. They're not going to get every one of our plaintiffs by September. They'll get a lot of them, but they won't get them all. And I think the reservation makes a big deal. And also, I will tell you this. We've been telling our plaintiffs 4 months to get their documents in, and that's what's making the difference now.
Yeah,
people sent their documents unsolicited. And by the way, if you're a DS2 winner and you have not submitted your DS260 and your documents without asking, you're running the risk of not getting a visa next year. Just FYI, do it now.
So I have a question for all of you. What do you think is the difference between, or do you think it makes a difference that there was a class certified in Gomez where there's no class certified in the 2021 cases? I
think that's part of the key difference. Not having a class means the plaintiffs get relief, and others similarly situated get relief. But plaintiffs get it first.
If you remember way back to the beginning, we talked about whether this was going to be a class action, and we strategically decided specifically not to make it a class action because A, we didn't want to litigate that issue, and B, because it's our position that this is a universal order. At least with regard to whether the visas are unlawful. Now, with regard to mandamus, obviously not. You're all in different situations. But the judge has now found that it's universally unreasonable. The delays are unreasonable. It's an unlawful withholding of adjudication. So in my opinion, I still stand by the position that I think a class action can harm a case rather than help it. I think this is case in point. How do we make a class where you've got all people competing for the same benefit, right? So I agree. I don't know that Judge Mate is going to do anything different for the fact that we have named plaintiffs, but I think a couple things hurt us in this case. The first is that there was a class cert motion pending, and the second was that there was an attorney that filed a motion with 25,000 plaintiffs. So that's another thing that we obviously can't control. So that's where I think we have some differences. Is what will happen with that.
And I suspect we'll get and we will not get a consolidated decision in this case. I don't think.
Hope not.
A bunch of people have asked in the comments something that I want to address. What about let's just say it's a similar order in Go. What about consulates that aren't working? Well, in that case, as soon as we get the order, basically, I assume we would be ordered to confer. And if not, we would confer anyways with government counsel. And we would raise that and say, listen, you can't do this. You can't comply with this order without facilitating either the processing and adjudication of visas at those consulates, including Moscow and others that we've already raised with the court, or facilitating transfers to consulates that are going to do the work. So
we have some experience with that, obviously, from last year.
We did it last year.
And we managed, with the exception, I guess, of the Belarus folks.
Belarus is the only one. We got them. We got them to a third country. They just couldn't get out of their country.
Right.
So
we're particularly cognizant. I do believe we may have an Afghani client or two that is a plaintiff case. We're cognizant
yeah,
of
we're working on that.
There. But that's not the only country with that problem.
Yeah. We
Was the judge's order specific about, did he require the Department of State to report back about what the plan will be for processing?
By the 20, we want by next week. He wants the plan, and then he will order once he has the plan. This is the decision on the part of our judgment, but not the actual final order. So
when we confer with the government this week, before that, that's something we can raise, is we need to have a specific plan for people who are at consulates that are closed, and a specific plan for people who are in Afghanistan and subject to civil, disruption and can't process. So that'll be part of it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Aaron, are you monitoring the questions for themes?
I can't see the question. You get to do it today, Greg.
Okay.
Another theme is, what about people who are not documentarily qualified? We're assuming right now, like Chuck said, that you sent in your documents long ago and that KCC has not reviewed them, which is very common. And if so, it depends on what the judge's order says. Some people are saying if we're not already documentarily qualified, all hope is lost. I do not agree with that at all.
No.
The judge has been made aware that KCC wasn't doing its job, and that it's not people's fault for not being documentarily qualified. In most cases, it's just the fact that the consulate has failed to review the documents. And so I don't think that all hope is lost. That's why, from the beginning, we asked for a reservation of visas because we knew it was going to be necessary. So that's the answer to that one.
There is a question. I know that I've seen this a lot on Twitter regarding Cubans. I don't think we have. Do we have any Cubans in?
No, not anymore. In our Go case, no. We may have, but this is particularly as this is DB 2020, and again, in his decision said, "Hey, I don't have to address this issue because Department of State created a policy that said if you have an expired visa, you can come." Now, I didn't think he said that, but awesome.
So this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If you are in the situation where you had a visa issued and it has expired, we think that there's some room in the decision language to offer some hope. We are going to see clarification from the government lawyers. And if they take a negative view regarding honoring those visas, we're going to go back to the judge on that issue and get his and see if he'd be willing to clarify his order on that. So stay tuned on that issue. I see there was at least one other person in the questions who had a similar question from Venezuela, a similar issue. So we will work on that issue and see if we can get something positive to report back. Okay. People asking about Iraq and other consulates that are just not operating on there. So we're going to get, this is all part of what we're going to learn when we have conversations with the government on what their plans are on that, what issues we have to go back to the judge with, what issues we're going to be able to resolve with the government lawyers who, they're pretty reasonable, I think, as far as, and how they worked on these cases. So I'm not pessimistic that the lawyers are going to act, reasonably, but, and also, I think the State Department now has finally gotten some leadership in the Consular Affairs Department, and maybe we'll start to see some political improvement over there, where we start to get some better news.
Greg, I thought one of the most scorching comments of Judge Meda's decision was in relation to the government's argument that, Judge, we interpreted 212F like this for 60 years or 70 years. And his response was like, I don't care. It's still wrong. I mean, he had a couple comments in there that were really scorching the government on their positions in this case. Scorching.
Yeah, and there was some really nice language regarding deference to their interpretation, to their views, and when they are, So I think a lot of lawyers are going to look at this case and be able to find some useful language in there for all kinds of other cases that come up. All right, so I'm looking for things that haven't been asked in one way or answered in one way or another.
While you're looking, I'll say that everybody keeps emphasizing that the decision yesterday was Gomez and not Goh, and that's true. But as you can tell, we're really positive about what this means for Goh as far as the legal arguments. I feel good about it. At the same time, there are slight differences between the the delay arguments, the track factors. So I'm not counting victory on Goh or anything like that. I just think that all of the analysis is really solid in our favor, and I also think that having considered and written this decision, that he's probably, I would guess, also close on the Goh cases. So it wouldn't be surprising if we got it this week.
It helps it's the same judge.
Yeah.
On there. I mean, if Goh was in a different courtroom, then I would say that this was influential. But, I don't think we're going to see completely different logic coming out of the judge.
No.
I mean, I think that you're right. There were some different issues, like, there was some differences in standing and differences in some, in terms of arguments that were one case versus the other. There's class issues, there's, all that. But just in general, I think some of the government's biggest arguments were blown out of the water that will, that are the same arguments that were made in Goh. So it's hard to see how they win on those particular arguments.
One of those, Greg, was on standing. The argument on standing that, hey, Judge, these plaintiffs have they're no longer visas. And the judge's response was, you didn't tell me a single person who got their visa. So no, you don't win that part of the case. Sorry. I thought that was pretty good.
All right.
Jeff had to leave.
Jeff had to leave. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the questions again are about consulates that aren't functioning. So, look, I mean, I think at the end of the day, and most of them are from DV 2021 folks. At the end of the day, a lot of this is going to depend on, we're assuming we're going to get a reservation of visas in Goh as well, given how little time is left for them for this fiscal year. I think the odds of our getting a reservation of visas now look a lot better, although, don't know for sure. Well, obviously, once an order comes down, if it comes down in the next, let's say, 2 weeks, the government can probably issue 5,000 or 6,000 visas over the course of the remainder of the fiscal year. So, and then everybody after that, it's just going to depend on what the judge does on the number.
Well, Greg, if you may remember, in our argument, the judge said, the government said that they had scheduled 6,000 people between August and September. And yet we have had a number of plaintiffs who told us they scheduled and learned about this long after the government made that statement. So I think they're probably going to end up interviewing and issuing probably close to 10,000 visas in August and September, which is great. But I also want to note, Greg, that why this is important in our other pieces of litigation, particularly not just the Kinsley case, but the EB-AOS litigation, because the filing of that litigation has clearly lit a fire under USIS, so much so that they have actually issued a policy that EB cases are the number one thing they're going to do between now and the end of the fiscal year. That didn't happen magically. That happened because they got sued, and they are really fearful, or maybe they're not fearful, but they want to do the right thing, and maybe we'll help them along with that. So I think this is a great decision in a lot of different ways.
Okay. All right. Somebody was asking about bill language. I don't see, and the resolution, I don't really see Congress probably addressing any DV issues here regarding other issues. It's too early to say. We'll have more to say about the budget reconciliation package and any impact on our litigation or any of this other stuff as we actually start to see language.
Greg, there was one question I got a lot on DMs, and that was from basically Iranians who were denied DV 2020 because of the Muslim ban. And will they? And the question is, we don't know, but we will be bringing that up in our consultation with the government. That Iranians, frankly, if they were fully interviewed and only denied for that reason, clearly should be among those considered in 9,095. But
yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to see on that. I don't. So I'm not. I think we've hit the most of the questions. Is not everybody's individual questions, but we've hit the themes in the questions. If you have questions regarding particular issues with particular consulates, I don't think that we're going to address one at a time here, but. Stay tuned when we get the Go decision, which will probably happen soon. We will do another one of these with and provide analysis within hopefully about 24 hours of getting that. In the meantime, we have our fingers crossed. We love the support we've gotten from you guys, and hopefully looking forward to reporting more good news over the next few days and weeks.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for letting us help you with this. This is joyful. We love helping folks.
We like reporting good news.
We do. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.